This is the fifth session for A1 level. All the sessions are complimentary. Let's quickly go through the agenda. So we will see what all we have covered so far. We'll do a quick recap. Then we will learn how to ask what time is it. To be honest, I never ask anyone in German what time is it because of course I have a phone. And I believe you will also never ask anyone what time is it. But let's say if someone asks you this, then you have to understand, right, what the other person is asking. But even more important is the answer to the question, what time is it? So why do you need this? So I believe most of you guys are working or students, and let's say if you're working and you will have meetings almost every other day, right? And let's say someone writes you in team, hey, do you have time to for a meeting? And you say yes, and the other guy says, okay, at what time? Then you have to say, right, at this time, or you have time from this, from between this window. For example, you can say you can arrange a meeting from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. or 3 to 5 p.m. So how do you, so most importantly, you should learn in German how to say, how to talk about time, how to answer the question, what time is it? Then you will learn, yeah, this is what we just spoke about. Then you will learn an important aspect about pronunciation in German language. So German is a phonetic language. So if you know how to pronounce a specific pattern in a word, then you know, then whenever you see this pattern in some other word in German language, you just can pronounce it as it is. So what do I mean by this? For example, one example is you will see words ending in r or er. Then how can you pronounce them? We will go through it. We'll look at some examples. Then very important is that you will learn about Modalverben. So when you think about Modalverben, you can think of English verbs like can, want to, then what, should, allowed to, like to, such things. So how can you say all of this in German? So for example, one example is that I transfer rent. So in German you will say ich überweise die Miete. But if you want to say I have to transfer the rent, then how do you add the have to part? So for that you will need the Modalverb müssen. So ich muss die Miete überweisen. So that is why you need Modalverb, and there are just 6. So not too much to learn, but it's very important. Then you will learn words. So this is actually, this number 6 is actually a part of here. So how you can specify time. For example, you will say at this time, between this time, from this time to that time, till this time onwards, such things you can say now. After this session, then you will learn, of course, how you can apologize, and of course how you may react or respond to an apology. So far you have been, as part of your homework, you have been observing your home, observing your office, and looking at what all stuff is lying there, and what are the nouns for these, for each of the item on your list in German with the correct article, der, die, or das. So you can say der Stuhl, das ist der Stuhl. But what if you want to say that is my chair, that is my computer, this is my friend? How do you say this my part? So that is something you will learn in this number 8 part. Then we will continue learning something more about the numbers. So not today, we will continue, we'll talk about numbers above 1000. Then yeah, this is, let's see, I won't cover this, but I mean it's there in this slide, so you will understand it when you have a look at the slide. All right, we will start. So 1 2 3 4 are done. This is the 5th session. This maybe you can read. This is a request for me about the homework. Maybe you can have a look at it later. What you have learned so far. So you know how to greet someone. So hallo, guten Morgen, guten Tag, guten Abend, moin, servus, different ways. But you don't need to know all of them. Just see which ones are used in your circle, in your social circle, or in your professional circle. Then how you may take leave from someone. So you can say ciao, tschüss, auf Wiedersehen, bis gleich, bis bald. Again, but use them according to the situation. Okay, don't use bis gleich when you want to say bis bald. If you are not going to see that person for a long time, then you will not say bis gleich. You will say bis dann or bis später. Okay, bis gleich is when you are just about to see that person in a very short span of time. Then you know how to ask about someone's well-being. Wie geht's is a short form. Wie geht's Ihnen? And then I've also asked you to. This is alles klar is also some people use as a way to ask about their well-being. Alles klar. It's something like, is everything all right, or all right, something all right with a question mark. Then you know how to write simple sentences, how to write double word questions, how to write yes or no kind of questions. By when I say you know how to write, you know with the grammar. So where is the verb, where is the subject, and if there is an object, where is it? Then you learned about personal pronoun. So in English we have he, she, it, I, you, but in German we have few more. For example, for you. So when you say you in English, it can mean many things, right? It can mean you are talking to just one person, or it can mean you're talking to more than one person. Also, you don't know whether you are being formal or informal. But in German, let's, for example, if you're talking to just one person, and if you want to be formal, it's sie. Also, if there is more than one person and still you want to be formal, it's still sie. If you can be informal with just one person, it's du. Informal with more than one person is ihr. So you should know all of them. Then also we see what else is important. So you know how to give directions, you know how to conjugate verbs, or you have some idea what conjugating verbs mean. Then you learned accusative article. Then you know how to say what do you eat in the morning. So if you want to say in the morning I eat bread, so in the morning you can say morgens esse ich. In the evening abends, in the afternoon mittags. Then we went through how a basic structure of an email should look like and which mistakes you should avoid. Then you learned how to count two-digit numbers. For example, you know how to say this. So to say this, you write it like this, and then you first say this part. So ein. Then you say and then you say this part, that is 20. Okay. If you want to say this, you write it like this. Then you say this part, that is 5. And then this part, 20. All right. Then you also learned the difference between how to pronounce ei versus ie when you see them in a word. For example, this is, so when you see ie, it should be pronounced as e. So this one is meter. Okay. Then you have this. So you have ei. So this is pronounced as I. So Reise. I hope you get it what I'm saying. So it's meter and not mitre. And this is Reise and not Riese. Okay, let's start with today's agenda, or whatever you have to learn today. So different ways to ask what time is it. As I said, I never ask this in German, but let's see. Let's go through it for the sake of completion. So one way to do this is that you say wie viel Uhr ist es. Notice this is the verb, this is the subject, and this is the W part. So wie viel Uhr ist es? If you, let's say if you want to translate this in English, it will sound very weird. So it will sound something like, how much time is it? That's why I don't translate. It's a different language, German, so just accept the language. So wie viel Uhr ist es? And then another way to ask the same thing is wie spät ist es? This, if you want to translate, it will sound something like, how late is it? Doesn't sound that weird, but still don't translate. So wie viel Uhr ist es is one way to ask. Wie spät ist es is another way to ask. Generally, this is considered to be formal. This is considered to be informal. Then most important is how you answer the question, right? If someone asks you what time is it, let's say the time is this, 18:30 or 6:30 p.m. How do you say this? So you separate 18 and 30, and then you read the number. So this 18 is 18, 30 is 30 or 30, depending on which city you are living. Then as to say it is, so normally we say that it is 18:30 or it is 6 p.m. So to say it is, you can say es ist. So you say es ist 18:30 30. In between this, you write Uhr. Okay, es ist 18:30 Uhr. Also, please remember, so this is the final answer. Es ist 18:30 Uhr. So, please notice this A of this 18 is small or lowercase, D of 30 is lowercase, U or U in German, U of Uhr is uppercase. Please remember this. Other ways to say the same thing is, for example, let's say if you want to say this one, 17:30, so of course you can say es ist 17:30 Uhr, but you can also say es ist halb, and then 17:30 is just 30 minutes before 6, right? 6 p.m. So you can say es ist halb sechs. So this is how you can say es ist halb sechs. So whenever you want to say 30 minutes before something, so you can use the word halb, and then you can say whatever time is it. So let's say if I want to say 2:30, then you can say like 2:30 or 14:30, or you can say es ist halb drei. Then how do you say this one? So you can say, of course, 17:25, but if you notice, this is 5 minutes before. So 5 minutes before 17:30, right? So it is 5 minutes before. So you just add for to this sentence, and you have es ist vor halb sechs. I hope it is clear what I just did. Then if you want to say this one, so you can say, of course, 17:55, but you can say 5 before 6, right? So es ist 5 vor 6. Then if you want to say this one, so in English we normally say it is 16:15 or past 18 or 6:15. So to say quarter, you can say viertel. Notice V is capital. Nach, so after 6. How do you say this one? So if it was only 20:30, you could say es ist halb neun, but it is 5 after halb neun, so es ist 5 nach halb neun. Okay, but practically speaking, if I have to say this one, I will use the format like I will say es ist 20:35, because I mean it's just easy for me to say than to say this one. Again, it depends on how you say or how you want to say it, or how your colleagues say talk about time. Okay, by the way, there can be other ways to say. I'm not sure, but if you know any, then let me know. Okay, other ways to say the same thing. Then please, so sunset, sunrise, morning, afternoon, evening, night happens in all our lives almost every day. And quite often when we talk, like, so I have requested you to start journaling in German. So you say, you take snippets of your day. So you can take morning and you can write whatever you do in the morning. Then you can take evening, and then you can take afternoon, or you can take a specific part of your day and you write about that in German. Try to write about that in German. But let's say at some point you want to write journal about the entire day, right? Then you will have to say, right, so you wake up just before sunset, or maybe you wake up after sunrise, or let's say you wake up in the morning, or what you do in the afternoon. So you will have to know how to say sunset, sunrise, morning, afternoon, right? Also, these are nouns. So for example, sunset is Sonnenausgang. Okay, it is, I believe, der Sonnenausgang. So please learn the German counterparts for each of these words, because you should know them. Then, so when you talk about time, let's say if someone asks you, when do you have time for a meeting, you can say, let's say if you want to say onwards sometime. So if you want to say 3 p.m. onwards, so you can say ab vom 10 Uhr. Okay. And if you want to say from to this, let's say, the German sessions are from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. So you can say von halb sechs bis halb sieben. And if you want to say between, so you can say zwischen und, so between this and this. Then you can say bis. When you say bis, it means still, until when the German sessions go on, usually till 6:30 p.m. or 7 p.m. depending upon if there are questions or no questions. Then for, you can say for, before, sometime, nach is after, is exactly, exactly, gegen is around, around. So if you want to say The meeting starts at 5:30, but you can join around 5:30 p.m. So you can join 2 minutes before or 2 minutes after. Okay. Please focus on this homework. You can now start writing about your day. You can try write a timetable. So what all you do during your day and at what time do you do them. For example, you wake up. You wake up 7 Uhr. You work, du arbeitest von 9 Uhr bis 17 Uhr. You can start writing like things like this. Okay. Then, okay, this we already looked at. Then also we will learn the about pronunciation. So there are many things that you are supposed to learn, but we will learn step by step. So whenever you see R or ER at the end of a word, okay, then you can, in most of the cases, almost all of the cases, pronounce this R or ER as a. Okay, a. For example, you can just you cannot, you should just ignore the R part, so don't emphasize this. For example, this one over here, so when you learn this for the first time, you might read it like the doctor, the mutter, the vater, the bruder. That is not incorrect. It's just that it's that's not how a native speaker will pronounce, at least in my city. So it's like my city is near Düsseldorf in Europort. So here we pronounce it as der Doktor, die Mutter, der Vater, der Bruder. So it may sound like we ignore the R part completely. Okay, so when you're pronouncing the Doktor, the Mutter, der Vater, der Bruder. Also, if you should ask this question. So how do I pronounce this? Right? How do I pronounce this? So initially when you are learning, when you learn nouns, I have asked you to learn them like, is it there, the, or thus. So then when you are learning, please pronounce the R part, emphasize the R part. So der Tisch, der Trockner, der Vater, der Bruder. But when you are speaking, so ignore, don't emphasize the R part. So you will hear people don't, so they will say der Tisch, they will just say there. They will not say there. They will just say der Tisch. Then the Uhr, okay, not Uhr. Der Fernseher, okay, not Fernseher, just Fernseher. Der Sommer, der Winter, winter. I don't say winter, it's a winter. Then you have Fenster, so it's Fenster. The Tür, der Trockner, der Toaster, der Hocker. Please find out what Hocker is. Der Duschmesser. What is Duschmesser? Think about it for a second if you don't know. So don't confuse this with Messer. So Messer is the knife that we eat with. Duschmesser is, if this is a circle, this is the center, then the distance from here to here is Duschmesser. So diameter. You're not supposed to know this. I don't think you'll be talking about Duschmesser, but let's say if you happen to be a mathematician, then you should know this. Then der Empfänger, der Absender. Why I have mentioned this? So for example, der Empfänger, if you know what it means, it is the, so if you ever decide you are in Germany and you want to post something, right? So you will have to provide the name of the sender, name and the address, and the name and the address of the receiver, right? So sender is Absender, receiver is Empfänger. Okay, and let's say if it is, the receiver is a woman, then it will be the Empfängerin, and the sender is a woman, then it will be the Absenderin. Why I am talking about this is, so here if you see the Empfänger, this one ends in ER, or you can think it of as R. Here you will don't have to pronounce the R part, so you can just say the Empfänger. Okay, the Empfänger, not Empfänger. So the Empfänger. But here the sentence, the word is not ending in ER, it is now ending in IN. So you have to pronounce this part now. So it will be the Empfängerin. Okay, now you have to emphasize the R part. Same applies here, the Absender. But when you say this one, so the Absenderin. Okay, I hope this is clear. Then Modalverben, why you should learn them? What is their purpose? I mean, it just helps you say a lot of things with the same number of verbs, right? So if you learn the verb, for example, if you learn the verb reisen, right, travel. Now you can say ich reise, okay, I travel. Now if you want to say I want to travel, right, so now you can say ich will reisen. Now let's say you want to say I'm allowed to travel, then you can say ich darf reisen. If you want to say I can travel, you can say ich kann reisen. So in a way you can use one verb to say 6 different things if you know the Modalverben. How many are there? There are 6. How to use them, like the syntax, we will learn that now. So there are 6 Modalverben. You will see 7 over here, but there are just 6 Modalverben. So you have dürfen, sollen, können, müssen, wollen, mögen. What is this? This is not a Modalverb, but quite often people think it of as a Modalverb. The Modalverb is mögen. Möchten is, you don't need to know this, but for the sake of completion, möchten you can think it of as a derivative of mögen, or to be more specific, möchten is Konjunktiv 2 of mögen. You don't have to know this right now. You learn this in higher levels of German language. Okay. When you see dürfen, think of as permission, allowed or not allowed to do. For example, you will see this notices or like in announcements in trains, man darf hier nicht rauchen, man darf hier nicht essen, so not allowed. Sollen is, you can think it of as what someone should do, like an advice, or what should be good for a person. You could also see this maybe in advertisements, right? Job advertisements. So the applicant should be able to program in Java. Okay, the applicant should be able to speak German. So there you can think of as sollen. So der Kandidat soll Deutsch sprechen. Können. Then you have können over here. When you see this, this is usually used in with respect to capabilities, skills, or what someone can and cannot do. Don't confuse können with dürfen. Okay, so for example, if at least when I was a kid in school, so we used to say, this was a running joke, right? If some kid comes and says, can I come in? And the teacher used to say, of course you can come in. But then the teacher would say, this is not the correct way to ask, right? You can come in. The correct way to ask is, may I come in? Like, am I allowed to come inside, right? So let's say if you were in a school and you want to ask your teacher if you can go inside, so you will say darf ich rein kommen. Okay, so if you say kann ich reinkommen, of course it's correct, it's just that not appropriate in terms of context. I hope you get the difference between dürfen and können. Then what is müssen? Ignore the blue banner for now. So what is müssen? Müssen is a must or have to. I have to do this. You have to do this. I must do this. Then you can think of müssen. Wollen is a strong wish. Don't confuse wollen with the English will. That is different. So here wollen is I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to learn German, or I don't want to do this. Then you can think of wollen. Mögen, speaking from experience, instead of mögen, people use möchten. So möchten is also a wish. For example, I want to learn German, or I like to learn German. So when you want to say I want to learn German, you can use wollen or möchten interchangeably. If you want to know the difference, so wollen is a strong wish, it's a very strong wish. Möchten is a wish. Mögen, even though mögen is a modal verb, quite often people use it to express what they like, what they don't like. If you want to say I like him, so you will say ich mag ihn. If you want to say I like her, you will say ich mag sie. right? If you want to say I don't like this, someone does something, I don't like it, so you will say ich mag das nicht. Of course, you can use it with, you can say to say, I like, if you want to say I like to travel, so you can say ich mag reisen. Okay, this bow banner, I mean, it was effective in the last session that I used to ask. I used to say there are 6 Modalverben, but I used to, like, there used to be 7 words, and the mistake that was that, yeah, this was the mistake, that there are 6 Modalverben, then why are there 7 words on the slide? So the answer is möchten is not a Modalverb, it's a Konjunktiv 2 of mögen. Okay, the syntax, how do you use it? So if ignore the slide, please. So if you just want to write a normal sentence, so you have subject, then you have verb, then you may have or may not have object. Okay, and the verb is conjugated, and the verb is at the second position. The subject is either before or after the verb, right? Similarly, so when you have Modalverben, so you will have the verb and you will have the modal verb as well. But now you don't have to conjugate the verb. The verb, let's call that as a normal verb now, or normal verb. It will be in its infinitive form. You only have to conjugate the modal verb, okay? So subject, usually either before or after modal verb. So subject either before or after modal verb. Modal verb is at the second position always, and it will be conjugated with respect to the subject. That means you have to learn the conjugation table for all the Modalverben. Then you can have other things, for example, objects in between. Then at the very last position, just before the full stop, you will have the normal verb in infinitive form. So this syntax was for framing sentences. What is the syntax for yes or no kind of questions? So you just have to interchange the positions of subject and modal verb. Okay, so here modal verb will be at the first position and the subject will be after the modal verb. And then you can have other things, for example, object in between, and at the last position just before the full stop you will have the normal verb in infinitive form. Okay, the examples, we will go through them just in a minute, I believe, because that was homework for you, and we will try to provide answers for the homework. Okay, you can go through the slide. This explains what is the homework for this session that should be completed before next session. Again, please go through it. Then let's see how you can, so it's always good to know how to apologize in any situation. So you can say Entschuldigung, tut mir leid, sorry, and not sorry. The spelling is the same, but pronunciation in English we say sorry, or, but in German we say sorry. So, oh, sorry. Also, if you have been living in Germany for quite some time, you will see that people, when they say Entschuldigung, they say it like this. So what I'm trying to say is they don't say the end part. They just say Entschuldigung, So they don't say Entschuldigung, they say Entschuldigung. You can also do that if you want to. Then what is tut mir leid? It usually means, I am sorry to hear that, or something like that. Sorry, it's obvious. Then how you may react to an apology. You can say kein Problem, no problem. You can say kein Ding. So it means no thing. I don't know if people say that in English, but in German they say kein Ding. But kein Ding is quite informal. If you are in office situations, I will use kein Problem. Alles gut is, it can be many things. If I say alles gut as a question, it means, how are you doing, or is everything good, or is everything all right? Here, alles gut, you can say, let's say if you're in a supermarket and someone hits you by mistake with their shopping cart, right? And they start apologizing to you. You say, yeah, no problem, it's all right, all good. So it's something like that. Alles gut. Kein Ding we looked at. What is mag nicht? It is mag nicht. It means normally, so it usually means don't mind, don't mind. This is actually a short form of das mag nicht is a short form. So not short form, but this is the complete sentence, I believe. Please let me know if this is a mistake. So, but people just say mag nichts. Then you already know the German words for stuff in your room. And yes, now you should learn how to say that's my stuff. Let's look at examples. So let's say, das ist das Buch, das sind die Bücher, das ist die Tasse, das sind die Tassen, das ist der Monitor or der Bildschirm, das sind die Monitore, Monitoren, Bildschirme, right? Book, cup, monitor, again monitor or screen, the same in plural form. Now, so please notice here it is again, das ist ein Buch, but here it is, das ist mein Buch, my book. Das ist eine Tasse, das ist meine Tasse. Das ist ein Monitor, das sind meine Monitore, okay, plural. So what you just saw something new articles. These are referred to as possessive article. So if you want to say my something masculine, my something feminine, my something neutral, my something plural. So in nominative cases, okay, mine and mine for masculine and neutral, meine for feminine and plural. Of course, you can be talking about other people's stuff. So as I said, this is these are referred to as possessive article. Then this is the complete list. So your stuff, you're talking about a direct second person stuff and you want to be formal. For example, I saw your email, ich habe Ihre E-Mail gesehen. Okay, then you have, if you can be informal, ich habe deine E-Mail gelesen. Okay, I read, I have his gift, ich habe sein Geschenk. I have her gifts, or I have not her, I have his gifts. So ich habe seine Geschenke. Sorry, this one is feminine. So let's say cup, I have her cup. So ich habe seine Tasse. This way you should learn all of them. There is nothing to teach over here. You just have to learn this all by heart. But here be careful. The spelling changes. So it's EUER and here it is EURE. Why do I say this? Because if you see IHR, this one becomes IHRE. So quite often you might do this mistake. EUER, you will write EUERE, but that's wrong. It's EURE. Okay. Then you will learn the same for accusative case. So only thing that you need to remember for accusative case is masculine, everything ends with en. Other cases remain the same. Only masculine here, you will have to add en in accusative case. Numbers. So how do you say 101? You say write 101, then you say 100, then you say 1. If you want to say 202, use 2002, then you say 200, 2. This one 311, so 311. 425, 425, 400, 25, 1000. What if you want to say this? It's pretty simple, so you write it like this. Then you just say this part, so 1000. You say 1000, and then you say this part, 1. Okay? If you want to say this, so you write it like this. Okay, so if you add all of this, you'll get the same number. So you say 1000, 100, this one will be this, 1000, 100, 11. Okay. Homework, to do this practice, you don't have to write imaginary numbers. You can just open your favorite app, Amazon or whichever app you're using to buy stuff. Then you can just try to read the prices of these items that you can find on these apps or websites. This homework, please go through it. This is the vocabulary that you should learn. You don't have to. This is just, so the idea is that every day, I believe you have a vocabulary notebook for German language, Every day on a new page, you divide the page in 4 columns. In the first column, you learn new nouns that you learned today, new verbs, new adjectives, adverbs, and then new phrases, right? So, for example, you should here this is alles klar, and there is alles klar with question mark. Then na klar usually means sure, no problem. Noch einmal, one more time. So you can use this, or you can also create your own. You can add more words to your vocabulary. If you notice, I have done some highlighting over here. So I write E for the, I write S for S, and I write R for there. Okay, so uh, I, so blue ones are masculine, pink, or if you see it as red, so these ones are feminine. Everything else which is not highlighted in this column is usually neutral. There are some words, for example, verwandte. What is verwandte? If you know, if you don't know, I can give you a hint. These are the people you meet in weddings, and they ask you, when are you going to get married? So, relatives. And you can have a male relative, you can have a female relative. So, the verwandte, die verwandte. Please see if you can follow this advice. Thank you very much for listening.